In order to meet the growing demands of the air travel industry, Toronto Pearson International Airport is constantly evolving and changing to meet this demand. The building of the new Terminal 1, modifications and upgrades to Terminal 3, and additions to the airfield's taxiway and runway systems are all a direct result of this growth. The airport's authority continues to plan and build for the future with projects such as a north de-icing pad, state-of-the-art fire training facility, and further expansion of Terminal 1 to name just a few. The area of the airport we will be focusing on is the airfield. The airfield is divided into two main areas, the movement area and the maneuvering area. The movement area is defined as all paved surfaces of the airfield on which an aircraft can move, for example, the terminal aprons, taxiways, and runways. The maneuvering area, however, consists only of the taxiways and runways which are under control of the tower and facilitate the takeoff and landing of aircraft. In order to operate a vehicle on the airfield, you must possess a valid AVOP or Airside Vehicle Operator's Permit. To obtain an AVOP, you first must possess a valid Restricted Area Identification Card for Pearson, a valid provincial driver's license, Class G or higher, and you must also successfully complete a written and practical driving test. There are a variety of responsibilities which accompany the privilege of being an AVOP holder. The safe operation of any vehicle while airside is your first priority. As the vehicle operator, prior to each trip onto the airfield, you will be responsible for conducting a walk-around inspection of your vehicle to ensure that it meets all safety and regulatory requirements. For example, working amber beacon, headlights, brake lights, etc., and that a vehicle registration certificate with a current validation sticker is present. Foreign object debris and/or damage is commonly referred to as FOD in the airport environment. Foreign object debris is any object that could be ingested into an aircraft engine or strike an aircraft propeller, causing damage to the aircraft or harm to airport ground workers. FOD control is every airport worker's responsibility and starts with the inspection of every vehicle prior to entering the airfield. Regular inspections of your vehicle will reduce the chance of depositing FOD on the apron. As an AVOP holder, it is your responsibility to take action if you see or encounter FOD. You must remove it from the apron and deposit in one of the many FOD bins located around the terminal buildings. If you cannot, or if the item is too large, you must report it immediately to the airport's authority, who will be able to assist you. Just as you must comply with the rules of the road while driving on public roadways and highways, you must also comply with airport traffic directives governing the operation of all vehicles while on the airfield. Both airside safety officers, commonly referred to as ASOs, and Peel Regional Police officers enforce these directives on behalf of the Greater Toronto Airports Authority. Failing to obey these rules may result in a notice of infraction issued against your AVOP permit or the suspension of your AVOP privileges. The airport traffic directives have a similar demerit point system to that which applies to your provincial driver's license. The accumulation of demerit points on your AVOP may result in the suspension or removal of your driving privileges. Operating a vehicle airside while under suspension may result in the permanent removal of AVOP privileges. To maintain order and safe separation between moving or gated aircraft and ground support vehicles, the airfield service roads, aprons, taxiways, and runways have been painted with a variety of markings. Each of these markings has a special meaning and relates specifically to vehicles or aircraft. All white markings on the apron and service roads pertain to vehicles. You will find these markings on vehicle corridors and equipment parking areas. All yellow markings on the apron pertain to aircraft. You will find these markings on aircraft taxi lanes and lead-in lines. The GTAA Airport Traffic Directives clearly identifies and outlines the purpose of each marking, as well as the rules and regulations of operating a vehicle on the airfield. As an AVOP holder, it is your responsibility to study and understand the contents of this document. Although the intent of the vehicle corridors is to maintain separation from aircraft, vehicle corridors are not guaranteed safe routes. Some vehicle corridors infringe on the movement of taxiing aircraft crossing the corridor to enter and leave the apron area or when taxiing to a gate. In the event the vehicle corridor is obstructed, proceed around the obstacle with caution, conforming to the roadway as closely as possible. The typical AVOP holder will also be required to operate their vehicle outside of the vehicle corridor in support of an arriving or departing aircraft. The airport traffic directives clearly outline the procedures regarding operating a vehicle outside of the vehicle corridors. Deviating from the vehicle corridor must be directly related to your duties. We recommend that you periodically refresh your memory regarding these procedures, even after successfully completing the AVOP written and practical test. A wide variety of vehicles are required to support the aircraft that fly in and out of Toronto Pearson. There is also a wide range of speeds that each piece of equipment operates at as well. From time to time, it will be necessary to pass a slower moving vehicle. As long as the blocking vehicle is traveling slower than 15 kilometers an hour, you are permitted to pass. The oncoming lane must be clear and you must not exceed the speed limit. At no time are you permitted to pass inter-terminal buses or more than one vehicle at a time. While driving airside, you will encounter roadways that adjoin the inner and outer vehicle corridors. These are called connecting corridors. If a vehicle is transiting the apron on a connecting corridor, it has the right of way. You must stop at the yield pavement markings found where the connecting corridor adjoins, letting the vehicle pass and join the main vehicle corridor. When parking a vehicle on the apron or leaving it unattended for any length of time, a simple procedure must be followed. Back the vehicle into its parking spot whenever possible. Apply the parking brake and ensure the vehicle's lighting system is turned off, including the rotating beacon. Temporary parking for vehicles and equipment staging for an arriving flight is located at each terminal gate. While company-specific designated parking is assigned by the airport's authority, due to the number of vehicles and aircraft moving together on the airfield, a vehicle priority system has been set in place. Aircraft always have the right of way. Next, emergency vehicles responding to a call. Then, airfield maintenance vehicles such as snowplows and sweepers. And finally, all other ground support vehicles. It is important to remember that wing walkers and marshalers, when pushing back an aircraft or returning to the apron, are to be treated as though they are an aircraft and given priority when crossing the vehicle corridors. Knowing when an aircraft is getting ready to push back from or docking at the gate will make you a better airside driver. Located in the AVOP training manual is a list of 10 indications that an aircraft is ready for pushback. Similarly, there are also indications to warn you that the gate is ready to receive an aircraft. At times, it may take an aircraft several minutes to shut down its engines once docked at the terminal gate. While the aircraft engines are running, they are producing jet blast. Jet blast is the force or thrust being produced by a jet engine or propeller. The larger the aircraft, the larger the force. The consequences for driving behind an aircraft with its engines still running are not only the possibility of injuries or vehicle damage, but also AVOP infractions that will result in demerit points. For the safety of all vehicle operators driving airside, it is mandatory to adhere to all airside signs and signals. Failure to comply with these posted signs and traffic signals will result in an AVOP infraction and possible suspension of your AVOP driving privileges. Knowing your surroundings and where you are on the airfield at all times will make you a better airside driver. Knowing what to do and where you are on the airfield is critical during an emergency. Whether you are involved in an emergency or are witness to it, all AVOP holders have a responsibility and a role to play. Firstly, know the airport emergency telephone number, 416-776-3033. Calling any other number, including 911, will delay the response time of emergency personnel. Prompt reporting of all emergency situations is the responsibility of every airport worker. Remember to call 416-776-3033 in the case of a motor vehicle accident which involves personal injury to you or a fellow worker, or only damage to the vehicle or other property. You are required to remain on scene until the emergency responders arrive. This applies whether you were involved in the accident or a witness to it. In the event of an emergency on the airfield, a variety of emergency response vehicles will be responding to the call. AVOP holders approaching an emergency scene should exercise extreme caution, avoiding the area if possible. As mentioned previously, you are required to yield the right-of-way to an emergency vehicle responding to an incident. Remember, 416-776-3033 for all airside emergencies. Commit this number to memory. It just might save a life, maybe even your own. Let's review. The airfield is divided into two main areas, the movement area and the maneuvering area. In order to operate a vehicle on the airfield, you must possess a valid airside vehicle operator's permit. You must always comply with the rules of the road, just as you would when operating a vehicle on public roadways. Failure to comply with these rules could result in suspension of your driving privileges. All pavement markings on the apron have special meanings. White markings on the apron pertain to vehicles, while yellow markings on the apron pertain to aircraft. Aircraft and marshalling crews always have the right-of-way, followed by emergency vehicles responding to a call, airfield maintenance vehicles, such as snowplows and sweepers, and finally, all other ground support vehicles. Know when an aircraft is ready to push back or arrive at a gate. Never drive behind an aircraft while its engines are running. In the event of an emergency, know where you are on the airfield and what number to call. To ensure a quick response, call the airport emergency number 416-776-3033. Dialing any other number may delay the response. Your copy of the Airside Traffic Directives Manual is your best resource while training for your DA AVOP rating. The manual also contains all of the information you will need to become a safe airside driver at Toronto Pearson International Airport. Read it through often, committing the contents to memory, and remember, drive safe.